Fun fact, I might be retarded. I just filmed this entire thing and I didn't check OBS settings and it was super shitty resolution, so you couldn't really see any of the letters and numbers, and it wasn't even a correct format, so I had to convert it, which only made it even blurrier. So here we go again. Happy Thanksgiving. My name is Stephen French, and we're going to be making Frogger. As you can see on the side of the screen, hopefully that's not mirrored, I would look ridiculous. And we've got a little bit of a game of Frogger, tiny little clone, and it's pretty simple to make. Frogger is one of the first games ever made after taking a processing course at university, and yeah, felt like making something to, I don't know, get back into teaching code. Here it is. I'm going to record all of these today, hopefully, if I don't keep screwing this up, and I'm going to edit the first video today, and they should all be out within 3 or 4 days at most. Might even be able to finish them all by tomorrow. So yeah, let's jump into some code and let's get Frogger going. Alright, for starters, we're going to have to open up GameMaker Studios. I'm using GameMaker Studios 1. GameMaker Studios 2 is out, but it costs money. I believe there is a free version as well, or maybe that was just a monthly, I don't know. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to make any more tutorials for GameMaker Studios 1 after this. I'm learning Go.Engine. It's an entirely free engine. I might actually even redo Frogger for that once I get a little more familiar with the interface. But yeah, you can, if you use GameMaker Studios 2, the code for the most part will still work. The interface is just a little bit different. But I was fucking Frogger tut. I did it. I made it. I just can't use it. So we're gonna go in, make a new file. I'm gonna call it Frogger tutorial because I don't know, I screwed it up before, and that's what we're gonna do. Alright, now all of the assets for this game you're gonna find in a link down in the description, as well as a link to the website that I got them from. I'm not doing any audio, but if you wish to add audio to it, that website has the audio files as well. I don't know if they have everything. I didn't care to do audio this time. I don't care to do animation this time. We're just going to do a pretty quick and pretty simple Frogger. But you're going to have a folder that you can download. It looks like this. Everything's kind of, like, got all the cars in a folder. Everything's kind of spaced out. And we got a frog. He should be facing to the right. That is golden. So let's jump into our game. Now, the first thing you need when you run a game on GameMaker is you need to have a room. If you try to run it, it'll say, hey, you don't have a room. So let's make a room real quick. All right, we're going to label this RM for room underscore main game room street, whatever you want to call. This, I believe, is, let me see, 228. And I am so sorry. Let me mute that. 448. Cool. That looks pretty boring. It's pretty dull. I'm doing some things in this tutorial in a little bit of a weird way to kind of utilize as much of GameMaker as I can, even though I don't plan on using GameMaker anymore, and GameMaker 1 is just about deprecated, but I started it that way. We're just going to do it that way. So we're actually going to create a background, and we're going to make some tiles. So I guess we'll call it a tile set underscore tile set underscore tiles. That's fine. I'm going to edit. Change the size. Let's go to 96 by 32 because we're going to do 332 squares, 32 pixel squares. First up we have our grass. So come down here to the square maker, fill it in, go for the top left corner. If you hold shift, it will draw a perfect square. Bam, there we go. We're going to grab this blue shore for the water. Make same thing, shift and grab for the water. Then we're going to do gray for the street. Oops. Bam. That's all we need for that. Close out of that. Here we need to use as a tile set, and let's change this over to 3232. Tiles are really nice just for kind of painting the background so you can get the layout of the page. They have so many purposes. This is just one very, very simple purpose of it. Jump back into our room. If you come down to quickly go to background, we're going to actually change the background color to black. Because in that little demo, the bottom of the screen will be black, and that's where we're going to write down our lives and our points. Come up to tiles. Undefined, click on this tile set. We're going to go with green. Now there is initially a row of black, then we're going to have, turn this grid on, we're going to have a row of green. Ooh, down to there. We're going to have 5 rows of streets. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fill all that guy in. We've got another row of grass. We've got 5 rows of water, and then the top row is where the lily pads are, but we're going to just color all of this in with the water. Cool. We got a game that looks fucking great. Now we're really gonna just have Frogger moving around the screen, colliding with the edges of the screen for this tutorial. Should be pretty quick to do. It's not very tough. So we're gonna have sprite underscore frog. Edit. or you probably, nah, I think a load sprite would actually need a whole sprite file. But we're going to do create from a file, navigate to wherever you have downloaded that thing, and here, grab him a little frog. He's facing to the right, and he's facing to the right on purpose. In GameMaker, image angle, image angle, the rotation, the direction, 0 points to the right. Again, I don't know if the camera mirrors me, but 0 is to the right, 90 is up, 270 is left. No, 180 is left, 270 is down. We're going to use those numbers to kind of change the direction of the frog. Since we're not going to be animating, we're just going to rotate. And because we're going to be rotating the image, we need to set his origin to 1616, so he rotates around his center. Otherwise, you get this really weird look where he kind of flips around a corner origin point, and it's no bueno. So we've got the sprite of a frog. Come down here, we're going to create an object, call this obj frog. It's a common practice and a just general good idea to have similarities between your naming. And so the first 3 characters or first 2 and something like that are going to be telling you what type the file is and then which file it is. So object and sprite, those will be correlated. Come down here, add that frog, baby. Now, what do I want to do first? All right, we got a frog object. Let's do the other objects first. I'm changing the order from how we did this before. We're going to do an order object with, no shit, I'm sorry, sprite border. And what sprite border will be, let's just make a 32 by 32, paint it red. This is just going to be something that we can collide with around the outside of the map. And this object itself isn't going to need any code, and we are going to keep the origin at 0, 0. I'm also going to really quickly create a group called environment, and we're going to throw the border into the environment. We're also going to create that same group because consistency is key. Environment, create an object, border, give him that, whoops, that's not a frog, give him that young ret. Neat. Oh, what else do we need? Cool. All right. So now we can start off. Get rid of the grid just because it looks kind of bad. Why is that not? Huh. Tile. What is this doing? What size did I do with this? Settings. Oh, I'm sorry. This should be 288 by 448. My apologies. Come back to tiles if you made the same. Well, you probably did because I told you to do it. We're just going to fill these in. Hold shift so you can kind of just drag and paint across the screen. Bang, 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 bang. Come over to objects. We have our frog. Scroll out, and I'm going to put my frog. I want him to start right in the center of the bottom. You see, since that origin is in his middle. The origin is in the middle of the frog, and these kind of like lock-in points are just kind of around the squares of a 32 cell. You can't do it. So we can come up here, 16, 16, plop that bird in the center. This is really the only thing we need for that for right now. So I'm going to set it back to 32 for our environment, our border. And here what we're going to do is place one in the corner outside of the room, grab the corner, and just drag it down. We're just going to make kind of a box around the game scene, the game view. And that's so we can't walk outside of it. Now, some of these will actually be inside of the game, and we don't want to see a red square, so this is going to be invisible, but for the sake of this, we can keep it. And I'm just going to throw one here just so you can kind of, we don't need it. Fuck it, you're going to get the point. If we didn't have these, the frog could just run right off the screen. So we've created a frog, we've created a border. If we press play, if you know anything about game development, you're going to know that this is actually pretty useless right now. But if we press play, we've got a frog. I don't know why we can see the square, but we can see the squares. I will fix that later. But yeah, we can't do anything. No keys help us at all. Why the fuck can't I see the squares? Tiles. I must have green, gray. Why? Oh, okay, I must have misplaced one of these. So yeah, I'm gonna just do a little test quick. I'm sorry about this. I didn't fuck this part up before. I'm gonna hold shift so I can draw a line. There's our issue. So our green kind of went the wrong way. This is just kind of creating a 32 by 32 line across it since our height is 32. So let me grab this. We're just gonna move that over a little bit. We're going to grab this, move that over a little bit, fill in that square, fill in that line. Good. If you drew that a little more accurately before, you're not gonna have that issue. Not bad. All right, but we need to do some code for the frog so we can actually move around. Now again, I wanted to kind of implement a lot of features in GameMaker, so I'm doing this in a harder way than we need to. So we're gonna use a little bit of scripting. Scripts are extremely powerful. If you ever have a bit of code that a lot of objects are gonna need to use, you can reference a script. You can create a script and reference that, and then you don't have to write it every time a new object is trying to use it. But we're gonna do this for the player input. So here we give it the name, SCR for script, player input. If you're new to coding, this type of naming semantic, you can name it whatever the hell you want, and it'll work as long as you're consistent in your, I guess you're accurate with your typing. Because misspelling, it doesn't know if you spell something incorrectly. We're gonna give it a title, a script, same thing, player input. This I'm just gonna put the brackets. You don't have to worry about this part too much. And then we're going to give us the keys for our directions. We're gonna do a key right, up, left, and down. I'm going in that rotation because that's the same way that the frog is gonna be facing, and you could do up, down, left, right. It doesn't make a difference. I'm just gonna follow the rotation because I want to. Key right, is equal to keyboard check press. The importance of press means that if you hold the key, it'll only be active, or it'll only give you a return of 1 at the moment that it's pressed, and you holding the key isn't going to make you keep walking, because in Frogger, that just doesn't really seem like the way that I want it to do, or the way that I want it to work. So virtual keyboard underscore right, that's going to give us to the right key. If you wanted to do this with the characters, like with WASDA, you do ORD, I don't really know what it means, parentheses, do 2 single quotes, and then for D would be to the right. But we're just going to use the arrows, or I'm just going to use the arrows. BK right, we Gucci. Bad practice is to copy and paste everything. My practice is to copy and paste everything, because it's faster. So I'm going to do right, I'm going to do up, we're going to do left, and there we got it now. But we also need to change these names. This is partly because copy paste is kind of a sin in coding. If your character walks the wrong direction, the mistake is quite often done here. Like if I made this key left, but it flags true if up is pressed, I'm not going to get the result that I want. I'll change that to key up. I like my equal sign to be the same. Left and down. And again, just double check, make sure that down lines up with down, left with left, up with up, right with right. Back into our frog. Now, our frog is going to have a create event. Most objects will have a create event. Border doesn't, because again, that's all done. We're going to, I don't know what any of this stuff does. You can, in GameMaker and in GameMaker Studios 2, you can do the drag and drop functionality where you don't really have to know any code. You don't have to type any code. You can get everything to work. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to do it. I like coding. So we're going to come down to control and code. This is the only square that I fucking use in all of these tabs. Bang. That's it. We're going to give this a title. So 2 lines is a comment. That's why it's green. 3 lines is a title, and that's going to change right here where it says execute piece of code. And I'm going to say, just because it's our create event, create is only going to run once at the creation of the object. So I'm going to call this initialize frog. All right, now a few different variables that we need here. We need to store the frog's start location. So when the frog dies or when you get to the lily pad, it's going to spawn him back down where he originally started. Easiest way to do that is just going to create a variable, start x, and set that equal to his x coordinate. Again, this only runs once the object is created. I'm going to do start y equal to y, same thing. You don't need to use semicolons, but I'm going to use semicolons because, oh shit, I didn't use semicolons over here, did I? Yep. I'm going to use the semicolons because if I try to upload this to GameMaker's forum as a tutorial, they won't take my submission if I don't use semicolons, even though GameMaker language doesn't require semicolons, which is really stupid to me. And if you guys are watching to verify this, it's really stupid to me, but I will follow your terms because I'm obligated to. My hands are tied. Let me just see what else I need really quick on my cheat sheet, because there's more code going to be done in this in future parts, but we don't need all of it now, so I'm not going to put it in here now. Cool, so we're going to have our movement variables. I'm going to say find home. What's set home? We're going to set home. We're going to do movement variables. We're going to have a horizontal speed is equal to 0. Ooh, Your boy. And have a vertical speed is equal to 0. We're going to have just a speed, which is how much we actually move. We're going to set that to 32. Do I need anything else? I don't. Okay, cool. So for here, we've got Gucci Gang all the way. We're going to come back to that in a later part again. Come down to our step event. Now, unlike create, create is going to run once at the creation of the object. Step is going to run every frame. If you look down in your room, under settings right here, it's by default set to 30 frames. That's just what we're going to use. And by the way, I'm sorry, you would have, likely if you're following along, you would have had a pop-up that I didn't have. Since this is drawn outside of the game room, when you try to save it, there's usually a pop-up that says there are objects outside of the game room. Would you like me to destroy them? We're going to put a lot of objects outside of the game room for this. So say no, continue to say no, or you can come up to the file, preferences, bit of a tangent, I'm sorry. Go down to form, under room form, when closing, remove instances outside of the room. Untick that, because that's annoying. Unless it's a game that you don't want things on the outside and you don't want to waste assets or memory, then tick that. Or just pay attention to where you're putting your shit. So, step 1, making a title. We're going to say frog movement mechanics. And then we're going to, let me get, I'm going to call it player input, movement input, sure. It doesn't really matter. They're comments. I'm really bad at commenting my code, which is why every time I come back to an old project, I can't figure out what I'm doing. Don't be like me. Comment the fuck out of everything. Make sure you understand what's going on, and make sure you write it in a way that you can figure it out later. Now, first, we need to get, I guess, communication between the object and the player by means of our keyboard. We wrote a script that gives us 4 variables that are going to be, by default, they're going to be set to 0, and if you press a button, they're going to be set to 1. We need to utilize all of them. So we need to input that script. We're going to say scr underscore. Now, if you have anything like, if you typed it out correctly, it's going to suggest to you anything that begins with that. We only have 1. Bam, we're going to use it. And you need your things. So if we needed variables to pass into that script, we would put them here. We're not doing that. But we have our script player input. We're going to have if. Now we have, because of that, we have access to these variables. We're going to say key underscore right. I believe in GameMaker Studios 2, it has the ability to actually suggest variables that you've made. GameMaker doesn't. So if you spell this incorrectly, you'll get an error, and then hopefully you can find that. But we're going to do a couple things. We are first going to set our horizontal speed equal to, well, to the right. Again, I don't know if that's correct, right, to my right. That is positive. So left is at 0 pixel, right is at, what do we have, 288 pixels. So we're going to set right to our speed, which is 32. And we're going to set our image angle equal to 0, because, again, facing to the right. This is going to rotate the image, or rotate the sprite around, so it looks like he's walking in the correct direction. I forgot something we'll come back to later. All right, copy this because I'm going to copy paste and do the wrong thing. Type in else, because it's need to be an if-else statement. Copy that. We need 4 of them. So if we're going to the right, now we're going to do if we're going up. We need to change our vertical speed. Now, in GameMaker, the top of the screen is pixel 0, bottom of the screen is going to be pixel 448, so it's going to go positive on the way down. We're going up, so we actually need to move negative into the pixel space. So vertical speed is equal to negative speed. Image angle, as we are going up, is going to be 90, because that is the orientation of up. God, I fucking hate semicolons. So dumb. I shouldn't have to use them. Here, we're going now to the left. If you're really new to coding, I actually strongly advise that you just type all of this out. Don't do the copy paste. It's good practice, especially when you're newer. But we're gonna go left, which means we still need to work on our horizontal, and we go negative 32 pixels. Now left is going to be 180 degrees around the rotation, and then we have our last down. Down is also going to be a vertical, and it's gonna be positive speed. You should be able to have 2 H speeds, 1 positive, 1 negative, 2 V speeds, 1 positive, 1 negative. Now there would be one problem with this if we ended now, in that if I hit right, I'm setting H speed to 32. In the next frame, when I haven't hit any keys, it would still be set to 32. So we need to, by default, change these all back to 0. A few different ways we can do it. we could just do it here, HB equals 0, and then adjust it, or we can do an else statement that would only call if we haven't pressed anything. That's your call. Do whichever one you want. And then HSP equals 0, and the SP is equal to 0. Just that way, after we move once, we don't continue to move. Cool. Now, that actually won't set anything, because as you can see, we haven't done anything to the player's X or Y coordinate. We haven't actually updated his position in space. So we're going to create another comment, apply motion. So here, we're going to say HSP is equal to, oops, I'm sorry, X is plus equals to HSP. Now, what that reads out, like, I guess fully is X is equal to X plus HSP. So say we're like at pixel 100 along the X, now we're going to be at pixel 100 plus 32. But in most languages, you can kind of concatenate those two operations, and this is a little bit quicker, a little bit cleaner. Same thing for our vertical, Y plus equals vertical speed. And we're not done yet, but we're done enough that we can press play. And once you get a few things on the screen, you want to render your game quite often, so you don't end up doing like 1,000 lines of code and then you have some errors and now you got to track through everything. I probably should have run the game already a couple times, but yeah, that's okay. So I'm going to click play. Hopefully you get no errors. I'm expecting to get no errors, but it's pretty rare to type something out and not get errors. So fingers crossed. Good. So we've got our frog. He's facing to the right. I don't want him to face to the right. And if you can think of it, like pause now and try to fix that so he starts out facing up. But we'll get there. This frog moves. He goes, he faces left when I go left. He faces right when I go right. He faces up when I go up. And he faces down. Oh, he doesn't face down. Ah, we found a bug. So down faces to the right. So we got to fix two things. One, I want him to start off facing up. And two, down has to be correct. And I know exactly what I did. I just didn't. It was the copy paste, honestly. Because here, key down, I pasted 0. I didn't adjust it. This should be 270. You could also set it to -90. That'll rotate clockwise. But let's just come up here. If you did it on your own, great. If you didn't, we're going to say image angle is equal is equal to 90. Just rotate him facing up when we start. Now, one thing I should have showed you also here, but I got distracted by that little bug. Once we get our game back. Good. So he's facing up. He can now face down. We drew that border of, I guess, border objects around, but I can still just walk beyond the screen. I can come back up over here. I can go down and come back up in the water. We can go off the screen. We drew the object. The object has a collision mask. The frog has a collision mask, which actually we got to go do something with because I forgot another thing. But there is no collision happening. That's because we actually have to tell it to happen. This is the beauty of programming, and to me game development specifically, is anything that you want to happen on this screen, you can make it happen. This is modern day alchemy. It is a beautiful and exciting and fun practice. You just have to know how to do it, and that's kind of the hard part. But it's fun to learn. So first thing, I mentioned I messed something up. We're going to click on our sprite. We're going to go to modifying mask. I actually just want to use the full image. So since we're moving in like 32 by 32 cells, it just makes sense to me that we use the whole block. I don't want to worry about pixel perfect collisions for the most part. So just for now, because of how the sprite is drawn, it doesn't take up the whole frame. Just do the whole one. Just follow along with this tutorial if you want. If you want to make it more specific and you can get your way around that, just know that if you have any bugs because you did that, you're not going to find the solution here. Feel free to ask me though. So we've got that. The square, since the whole frame is drawn in or colored, that mask will already cover the whole thing. And we need to go into our frog. Now there's a few ways that we can do collisions, and we're going to use a few different methods throughout this series, I guess. We could do a collision event with the border, but that doesn't help us too much right now. So we're going to come down here. In between the two, so in between our input and our application. I did that in the last tutorial as well. Apply. That looks fucked up. Whatever. I don't care. We're going to do our collision detection here. Now, if we press right, our H speed is set to 32. But if there's a block to our right, we need to negate that action. So this with a comment. Collision. We're going to say with border. Boider. And then I'm actually going to do another comment for horizontal, because horizontal And vertical, we're going to do a little bit differently, and that'll make more sense when we have our logs in the game. For now, you know what? I'm going to do this differently. We're just going to do it now. We're going to fix it when we get to the logs. So vertical and horizontal will be the same for now, but we still have to draw them separately. So horizontal, we're going to check for place. Oops, I'm sorry. If, place meeting. Now, place meeting is a function that GameMaker provides for us. If you look down here, since I'm inside of the parentheses here, it tells us what variables we need to pass. We need to give an x coordinate, a y coordinate, and an object that we're trying to collide with. If you have any questions about that, middle click or open up the help menu and type it in. You can find it. It tells us place meeting. It tells us what it does. It gives us a little graphic as to how it works. I advise you read through that. We're just not going to do that here. So we don't want to check at the x, y because that will check where the player currently is. We need to check where the player will be if we were to move one frame ahead. So we got to look into the future a little bit. So we're going to say if x plus horizontal speed, if we're not moving, it's going to be plus 0. When we check right where we are, we shouldn't be colliding anything because we hadn't moved. We're going to check the y because we're only checking collision in one direction right now. We're checking collisions against object. That's not what I wanted to type. Object border. So if in the future one frame we would potentially hit a border, this is going to flag true and we're going to run the code inside. All we really want to do is we want to negate that action. So if x plus horizontal speed, so x plus 32 were to hit the border, we're just going to say horizontal speed is equal to 0. Now we're no longer going to travel ahead and we're just not going to move. I am going to copy paste because I can copy paste, change this one to vertical. We're going to do the same thing here, but now we don't want to check along the x coordinate. We want to make sure we check vertical along the VSP, horizontal speed, vertical speed. This is a really simple place to make a mistake, so really pay attention to this code. Again, like type it out. Don't do the copy paste if you're newer. Type it out, study it, make sure that's right. But now all we're saying is if we're going to hit the border to the right or to the left, we're going to set horizontal speed 0. If we're going to hit it above or below, we're going to set the vertical speed equal 0. As simple as that. Come back here, run our game again. Give me the money. Okay, cool, we got a frog. We still have rotations and movements in all the directions, but now I can no longer go off the board. And this way, I can no longer go off the board. And that, no longer off the board. And no longer off the board. We are good. Let me switch over to Big Face Steven. And sneak that little guy over there, just so he's there. He's kind of cute, little frog. But that is all that we're gonna do in part 1 for today. I'm going to record all the parts today, hopefully, unless like everyone in the house gets home and then something fun comes up. But I've got a lot of free time the next couple days because I've got awful work for the holiday. So I am going to make all of these very, very soon. I'm going to try to upload the first video today. So the whole thing will be complete and it'll be timely. I've made that mistake before where I start a project and I end up kind of losing track of it. And now I'm rambling and I do that a lot too. Again, my apologies. If you have any questions, if your code isn't working, please ask me in the comments. But do your best to either explain what you think the issue is or what is happening or what's happening, like what you perceive to be, or just explain to the best of your ability what the problem is. If you can, like either copy paste the code into your comment or send me a screenshot. Yeah, it's really hard for me to know what could be wrong if I don't actually see your code. If I didn't, I should have mentioned before, you're going to have a link to all the assets in the bottom, as well as the link to the website that I found the assets from. The original asset file is of a higher resolution. I scaled everything down to this 32 by 32, and they do have frames for animation if you want to play with those later. I will not be animating the frog, as I believe I've said before, but if there's enough questions or concerns on how to do that, if enough people ask me, I'll gladly make another video on how to do it. But that is it for part 1, just getting the frog to move around the screen. A little bit of a start to the game. You can kind of see how it's going to come into, I don't know, a full project pretty quickly. Thank you so much for following along. I am Steven French, and hopefully you've learned something today. If you know anybody else that wants to learn how to make games they don't know yet, send them my channel. I'm going to be doing a few of these. Peace. Happy Thanksgiving. Wait, this is peace. This is okay. Okay, happy Thanksgiving.